Hello YouTube, this is Kiryu904, and we finally reached the end of this year's Foreign Fright Fest. For the final installment, we'll be looking at the 2007 J-horror film Slit-Mouthed Woman, also known by its English title, Carved, the Slit-Mouthed Woman, which was directed by Koji Shiraishi and co-written by both him and Naoyuki Yokota. It centers on its own interpretation of the Japanese urban legend Kuchisake Onna, or Slit-Mouthed Woman in English, which began around the late 1970s, although some have suggested that the legend originated as far back as Japan's Edo period. According to the legend, Kuchisake Onna was once a beautiful woman until her mouth was slit from ear to ear. How and why this happened varies across versions of the story. Following her death, she came back as a vengeful ghost, wearing a mask and carrying a pair of sharp scissors, or some other sharp instrument. If she appears before you, she'll first ask, "Am I pretty?" If you answer no, she'll immediately kill you. If you answer yes, she'll remove her mask to reveal her disfigured mouth and ask, "How about now?" If the answer is no, again she'll kill you. If the answer is yes, she'll slit the corners of your own mouth with her weapon until it resembles hers. There are a few ways to escape Kuchisake Onna in some versions of the legend, but none of them appear in the film. We begin in an undisclosed Japanese town where the story of Kuchisake Onna is regaining traction when an earthquake suddenly strikes and a voice saying, "Am I pretty?" is heard by an elementary school teacher, Noboru Matsuzaki. Immediately after, 3 young boys encounter the vengeful Onryo at the school playground, where she manages to kidnap one of them. This causes the students at the school to be sent home in groups escorted by members of the staff. Similar to how in real life, students were escorted home by people from parent-teacher association groups due to widespread rumors during the legend's circulation throughout Japan in the 70s. One girl, Mika, is returned home by her teacher, Kyoko, but is reluctant to approach her mother and is seemingly afraid of her. Kyoko then volunteers to watch over her for a while longer past curfew, which the mother doesn't find strange for some reason. Mika then confesses to her teacher that her mother beats her, revealing the bruises to prove it, and assumes she hates her. Kyoko objects to this and attempts to reassure the girl that her mother does love her, although her reasoning just comes across like she's making excuses for the woman's abusive behavior. Mika then says that she hates her mother, causing Kyoko to respond somewhat harshly, and the girl runs off, with the teacher in pursuit. But soon the kid runs into the grasp of the dreaded Kuchisake Onna, and futilely attempts to break free, only succeeding in ripping off her mask, exposing her grotesquely slit mouth. The sight shocks Kyoko into silence, and she stumbles to the ground, too stunned to stop the spirit from walking off with Mika in tow. Later, after being questioned by the police over Mika's kidnapping, the teacher goes home and calls her ex-husband to see if she can talk with her daughter. It turns out that Kyoko has her own history of abusing her child, in spite of how much she cares for her, resulting in her and her ex separating and him gaining custody over the girl. The next day, Kyoko is approached by her colleague, Noboru, who learns that she saw the face of Kuchisake Onna that was reported on the news. He shows her a 30-year-old photograph of the same woman, albeit without her facial scars, before the man hears the same voice he heard before the boy's disappearance, as well as Mika's. Noboru sets off towards the voice, accompanied by Kyoko, and he explains to her how it spoke to him just before each of the kidnappings, and that he intends to confront it. Their journey ends at the residence of a young boy named Masatoshi, who's writing down info on the Slit-Mouthed Woman from the TV before he's suddenly grabbed by her. Luckily, the 2 teachers arrive in time before he can be whisked away, and Kyoko is able to stab her a few times with a knife until she collapses and seemingly dies. However, their victory is short-lived when the body turns into an unidentified housewife, much to the duo's shock. After checking her ID, Noboru and Kyoko decide to travel to her house in order to find out if she took Mika there. Before doing so, they drop off Masatoshi by the police station to report the dead housewife, even though they should have called them from the boy's house, and the kid hands all the notes he wrote down about Kuchisake Onna to Kyoko before departing. The teachers then reach the woman's home, only to find her two young daughters wondering where their mother is, causing Kyoko to quickly walk away in horror at the realization that she killed her. Figuring that Mika isn't at the housewife's residence, Noboru returns to the guilt-stricken Kyoko, who tells him how the youngest girl reminded her of her own child, and confides in him about her divorce and how her daughter prefers her ex-husband. To console her, Noboru reveals that the woman in the photograph is his mother, Teiko Matsuzaki, and that when he was a boy, he and his brother and sister were severely beaten by her. The sickly woman tormented the three until Noboru's siblings vanished, along with his mother. Not long after, the rumors of the Slit-Mouthed woman began, which is what Teiko became after her death. He also deduces that the housewife must have been possessed by her, and that more may be in danger of this fate. It's then that he, once again, hears the sound of her voice, and he and Kyoko race to intercept Teiko. Simultaneously, Mika's friend Natsuki and her mother are out putting up missing flyers for Mika when the mother starts coughing uncontrollably and transforms into Kuchisaki Onna, kidnapping Natsuki soon after. Noboru and Kyoko quickly arrive on the scene, but the Onryo and child are long gone. The two lose track of Teiko, but continue to drive around in search of her. That evening, the boy who the Slit-Mouthed woman kidnapped first turns up dead in town, and an alive Natsuki is found soon after, having been freed from Kuchisaki Onna's lair by Mika, who was unable to free herself. She doesn't come out unscathed, though, as her face was mutilated just like Teiko's. Hearing news of the boy prompts Mika's mother, Mayumi, to go out on her own to search for her daughter. We then catch up with Masatoshi at the police station, who, for some reason, has clammed up and is unwilling to speak, no doubt wasting the officer's precious time. Until he finally decides he's ready to reveal all he knows about the Slit-Mouthed woman, which makes me wonder why he was initially so reluctant to talk. Also, his scenes with the police don't go anywhere, since they're the last time we see him in the entire movie. Back with the teacher's search, Kyoko starts reading from the notes that Masatoshi gave her for any clues as to where they might find Kuchisaki Onna. Why she didn't think to do this much earlier, I have no idea. The two eventually learn that the Slit-Mouthed woman hides children in a house with a red roof, and Noboru quickly realizes the description matches his childhood home. Upon arriving, they look around until Noboru finds a knife covered in dried blood. This causes his repressed memories of what happened to his mother and siblings to resurface. It's revealed that Teiko had eventually killed his brother and sister, and would have died himself had she not been briefly overcome with remorse for her actions. She hands her son a knife, imploring him to cut off her head before she has a chance to take his life, believing that if this isn't done, she will come back to haunt and torment others. Teiko then grabs a pair of scissors and tries to stab Noboru, but he swings the knife at his mother, slitting her mouth before stabbing her in the stomach, finally killing her. The distraught child then places a mask and a coat on Teiko's body before placing it in the closet, where it would come back to life by her spirit several years later. And now I'm left wondering how Noboru even got away with killing his mother, or why her death was never discovered by the police. The teachers soon find Mika tied up in the basement, but before they can leave, the Slit-Mouthed woman shows up, wounding her son and incapacitating Kyoko and Mika. Before long, Mayumi arrives, having learned the house's address from another child knowledgeable on Kuchisaki Onna, finds Kyoko, and rushes down to the basement, where Teiko has taken Mika and Noboru captive. She goes for her daughter, but instead of just scooping her up and getting out of there, the mother simply cowers in fear, giving the Slit-Mouthed woman an opportunity to stab her in the back. The ghostly killer then sets her sights on Kyoko after she comes down, but a distraction from Noboru enables the teacher to fatally stab her with the bloody knife. The son of Kuchisaki Onna crawls over to decapitate her, but unfortunately she ditches Natsuki's mother to possess the injured Mayumi. Kyoko and Mika begin escaping upstairs while Noboru attempts to stop Teiko from pursuing. The mother and son exchange a couple of stabs, and he finally manages to get a shot at her neck before cutting off her head completely, seemingly ending the woman's brief reign of terror. This triggers an earthquake that shakes the house, causing debris to fall and block the basement entrance, separating the dying Noboru from Kyoko and Mika. As morning arrives, the survivors slowly make their way outside, while in the basement, the corpse of the slit-mouthed woman stares down at her deceased son. Sometime later, Kyoko meets up with her ex-husband, who allows her a brief moment alone with their daughter. The mother begs her child for forgiveness for the past abuse and gently gives her a hug, to which the girl reciprocates in forgiveness. That is, until Kyoko begins coughing uncontrollably and stands back up, revealing a slit mouth and brandishing a pair of scissors. Under the possession of the vengeful Teiko, she raises them in the air, preparing to use them on her daughter, before the film ends. And that was Slit-Mouthed Woman. And while it's not bad, it is definitely a step down from previous J-horror films I've covered. Although it features some creepy moments, it very much lacks the sense of creeping dread and foreboding atmosphere that movies like Ju-on and Pulse excelled at creating. This version of the Slit-Mouthed Woman also doesn't hold a candle to other J-horror entities like Kayako or Sadako. Though the acting from the cast was good, the characters were a mixed bag. Kyoko didn't really grow as a character or do any self-reflection. We're supposed to sympathize with her, but she never learns that you can't keep abusing someone just because you apologize for it afterwards. I found Noboru to be more sympathetic, since he was a victim of abuse rather than an abuser. I also found the film's message a little half-baked. It seems to just say that abuse is bad, and while that's certainly true, it doesn't go into why it occurs or how to stop the cycle of abuse. We also never got an explanation as to why Teiko beat her children. Was she mentally ill, or was she just a terrible person? For that matter, we never found out why Kyoko abused her child either. We did at least get somewhat of an explanation as to why Mayumi treated her daughter the way she did, that being their strained relationship after the death of Mika's father. I did find the various technical aspects of the movie pretty decent, like the cinematography, sound design, and visual effects. To finish off, Slit-Mouthed Woman was okay, just not nearly as good as other J-horror flicks I've seen. And we've finally reached the end of Foreign Fright Fest 2025. I hope you all enjoyed this year's marathon, and that you'll join me again next year for more ventures into the world of foreign horror. Be sure to leave a comment, thumbs up if you enjoyed this movie review, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. You can also follow me on Twitter. Goodbye, and have a happy Halloween, everyone.